Welcome back. Welcome to the Premier Mindset by Premier Performance LLC. I'm your host, Trent Mailer, LCSW, clinical therapist and performance coach, and this is episode 27. Today we are talking about something that every single one of us wrestles with, fear. But before we dive in, this show is for awareness, education, and performance growth. It's not a replacement for therapy or medical treatment. And a quick note on top of that is you can watch full episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And I'll be sharing clips across Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. Hit subscribe or follow if you want to catch every drop of new content. We put stuff out every day, new episodes coming out every week. All the links are in the show notes. Let's get into it. If you've ever felt like fear was running your life or holding you back from taking the next step in your career, relationships, or personal growth, this episode is for you. Today we're going to cover working with fear, how to do it, tools to use while you're doing it, understanding fear and how the role it plays in our life and what we're doing, and how to use fear as fuel instead of freezing. On top of that, we're also going to work to spot it before it starts to wreak havoc in our life. Let's dive into what fear is specifically. Fear is a primal emotion that serves as a protective mechanism against perceived threats. It is characterized by physiological responses such as increased heart rate, rapid breathing, sweating, muscle tension, and dilated pupils, along with other things as well. We also have emotional reactions that pop up, like anxiety or apprehension, dread, or fear. Fear can also disguise itself as procrastination or perfectionism, which creates big problems in our lives with what we're trying to get done. And a lot of times, honestly, the cure to procrastination is optimism. If we can take away some of that fear, we might find ourselves getting back to work a whole lot sooner than we thought. And it's interesting because I know a lot of people don't view procrastination as something connected to fear, but honestly, that's where it does come from. It's feeling like something isn't going to work out, or it's not going to go how we want, or it's not going to be enjoyable, or anything else. So we avoid it. We try not to do it. We try and push it off. We try and wait on it until maybe we can't wait anymore. Fear also plays a big role in relationships. Fear of vulnerability can tear relationships apart. Because if we can't open up together, it's really hard to live life together. And I've seen that a lot in a lot of the couples counseling I do for people. Sometimes the biggest thing you can do to find progress and to move forward is just to open up and connect with each other. Fear also creates a lot of avoidance behaviors that limits growth. And that can get in the way of us finding success with our careers or whatever we're doing. That's that fight or flight system, and it's very common to try and avoid things and get out of stuff. So it's a very common reaction that happens, but it's also one that we want to conquer and not have in the way, causing issues for us. It can also impact cognitive processes. Perception of danger, feeling like there's danger somewhere when there's not. Avoidance behaviors like we talked about, and negative thoughts and beliefs that get stuck in our head and get locked into a loop that just keeps playing and playing and playing. Fear can be triggered by a wide range of stimuli. It could be real or perceived threats like snakes or heights or even public speaking. It could also be learned experiences like things you've gone through, like past trauma, triggers, things that you've had phobias about, all these kind of things. It could be imaginary situations or scenarios as well, like ghosts or monsters, or a little more on the paranoia type side of thinking people are coming in after you, or there's people watching you, these type of things. But really, fear is a normal and adaptive emotion that helps us stay safe. It's there for a reason, and fear is not a bad thing. We don't want to get rid of fear. We just want to work with it, and that's why this episode is titled Working with Fear. But at the same time, excessive or persistent fear can lead to problems. It can create anxiety disorders and other mental health issues, and it's going to get in the way on your track to that success you're looking to find. So we got to work with this stuff. We have to understand it. We can't run from it, but we got to deal with it in a way that's going to help us move forward. So before we keep going, we're going to jump into our brain activity. And this is something you can try out at home, see how it works, see how helpful it might be for you. And this one's going to push you guys a little bit, but that's the purpose of it. Because if we're not facing our fears, it's going to be really hard to move past things. And that's what we're talking about today too. So we're going to try and face some fears and see how it goes. So the brain activity today is called the Fear Top 10. What you want to do is list your top 10 fears and order them best you can. And you really want to give some time and think about it. Don't just do the first things on your mind, because the first things on your mind are probably going to be related to whatever you're going through in that day or in that moment. So if you can actually sit down and give it some thought, you might find that there's some other 10 that start to creep towards the top, and that some other ones that may be on your mind right now may not be that big once you zoom out and kind of look at the bigger picture. So list those top 10 fears down, order them however it sees fit. Put your number one top fear at the top, put the fear that's the least scary but still intense at the bottom at 10, and reflect on why you ordered them there as you have. Reflect on why 1 is 1, why 10 is 10, why 5 is 5, and everything in between. Reflect on what it would take to face those fears. And after you reflect on that, I want you to write down an actual plan. Like what you would need, the resources, the support, what strategy you might need to take, how much time you might need to have, what you might need to do to prepare yourself for it, anything in between, just what you would need to do to kind of conquer that fear, almost like a roadmap for yourself. And with that, you can do it for all 10 if you want, but it'll probably be best to do 3, because if you're doing all 10, it's going to take a lot of time. So if you have the time, awesome, do it, but stick with at least 3. So you want to pick your top 3, you could do that. You could pick 1, 5, and 10. You could do random numbers, up to you. But just pick 3 things from that list to make a plan on of what you would do, how you would handle it, how you would try and face that thing. Once you have those plans done, then I want you to actually dedicate to it and be honest with yourself with that reflection of which ones you need to do and which ones are scary, and push yourself towards at least 2 of those 3. And if you did all 10, then just push to 2 of them. But the goal of this is I want you guys to come out in the next month and be able to conquer at least 1 of these fears. So we're going to go after 2 to see if we can get 2 of them done, because we might be successful with 1. We may not be as successful with the other one. We may learn that one's a lot easier than the other one. The other one's going to take more time or something else. So let's push towards 2 of those things and conquering those fears and getting past them, embracing them and moving forward in our life. But we also want to try and get this done within a month. So we want to get to work now. We don't want to push it off. So I'm going to push you guys to try and conquer a fear, whatever you want it to be. Let's try and get this stuff done and see what happens. So give it a shot. Let me know how it goes. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you're having any issues or struggles or questions about it, just let me know and reach out. Is it possible to keep working with fear? Short answer, yes. It is entirely possible to keep working with fear, and in fact, it is a normal part of the professional journey. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to learn how to manage it so it doesn't control your decisions or hinder your growth. Many highly successful people, including athletes and business leaders, have acknowledged that they too have experienced fear, but have learned to push through it to achieve their goals. So again, this isn't how do I get fear gone. We don't want to get rid of emotions. It's how do we work with them? How do we incorporate them in what we're doing to make it easier with what I'm trying to get done and to reach the limits and the heights that I'm trying to reach? Fear does signal us. It lets us know stuff that's going on, which is really important. It's big with our comfort zone. Fear in the context of the comfort zone acts as a signal that you are entering the fear zone, which is a state of like uncertainty where growth and new learning are possible. You're kind of pushing yourself. So you can call it the fear zone. You can just call it leaving the comfort zone. You can call it the growth zone. You can kind of call it whatever you want. There's a lot of different ways to set these things up. However it works in your mind, works great. That's really all that matters. But really what it is just a zone where there's uncertainty of how things are going to happen, what's going to go on, and we have to push ourselves a bit. And we have to leave that comfort zone to grow. It highlights our boundaries that, when challenged, promote personal development. But it also reveals the specific limitations, limiting beliefs, and anxieties that are holding us back from realizing your full potential. Something you can do with this is take a look at your comfort zone, your growth zone, and your panic zone. So these 3 are all incorporated together because they're all related to each other, and they're kind of just different levels on that spectrum of pushing yourself. It's almost like a window of tolerance that we've talked about before. So if you want to draw it out for yourself, you can. It's just kind of like a target, like a darts board, where you have a circle on the inside, a circle on the outside, and then another circle outside of that. Okay, the circle on the inside, that core, is the comfort zone. The comfort zone are where things are familiar and low stress, they feel good, they feel easy, they feel comfortable. If we go outside that center and we go to the outside ring, the middle ring, that's called the growth zone. This is where we're not pushing ourselves too far, but we're pushing ourselves enough that challenges are manageable and that fosters learning and development. It kind of pushes us to learn new things, try new things out, see if we can build ourselves up for more success. And then if we go outside of that to the final ring that's on the very outside, that's that panic zone or the alarm zone. This is where challenges are overwhelming and it leads to stress or ineffectiveness. We kind of just break down. It's almost like pushing yourself too far. So like comfort zone might be going for a walk. Growth zone might be pushing yourself to go for like a mile run. Panic zone might be going for like a 10-mile run. And I'm not saying everybody doing a 10-mile run that hit that panic zone, everyone's comfort zone is different. But if your comfort zone is walking, going for a 10-mile run is going to probably be pushing you pretty far. So we want to make sure to push ourselves. That's good, but we can't push ourselves too far as well. We need balance. What this model really does is highlights that while the comfort zone is safe, growth requires venturing into that growth zone, but staying too long in the panic zone is counterproductive and harmful to your well-being. So we can't push too far too long, and we can't play it too safe either. We got to find that balance, and some of it's just trial and error to find out the right way that it's going to work for you. A great example of this is Georges St-Pierre. He's one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time. If anyone has any experience with MMA or UFC, you probably know of him in some way because he's been around for a long time and he's done some pretty awesome things. And he's admitted his fear. The former UFC welterweight champion has spoken extensively about being terrified before every single fight. He has said that any fighter who claims to be fearless is lying. What he did is he focused on control. GSP's strategy was to acknowledge and control his fear by being objective and focusing on only what he could control, such as his training and his strategy. Keeping it small, he broke it down, right? And we've talked about that strategy in the past of just keeping things small, working on what you can work on, and not looking at too much at the same time. And he would ignore things outside of his control, like the outcome or his opponent, because when we get stuck focusing on those things, it just stresses us out. It creates anxiety. It probably creates more fear. So we want to focus on what we can control. Just keep that head down and grind sometimes, especially when fear is there with us, because that means we're pushing ourselves. That means we're growing in some way and we're going to go do something that's going to lead to productive growth. GSP also turned that fear into courage. He said there is no courage without fear, and that feeling fearful is an opportunity to be courageous. That's changing that mindset from threat to challenge. Instead of looking at it of, this is terrible, I'm feeling this thing, I don't want to feel this thing, I want this to go away, he looked at it as an opportunity, that this is my chance to find courage and give it a shot. So even when things are feeling bad, even when fear is up there and it's scaring us, there is an opportunity to grow in some way. There's an opportunity to get better if you let yourself do it, if you push yourself towards it. This mindset helped him rise to the top of his sport by consistently facing fears and overcoming them. And he did this time in and time out, and he left a legacy behind that a lot of people will remember for a long time. When we face our fears, we create amazing things. And sometimes we have to do that. And in all honesty, if we play it safe our whole life, you're going to look back with regret, and it's going to feel pretty bad. Trust yourself to face the fear. Don't hold yourself back, and think about how you're going to feel later down the road if you don't give the thing a shot that you're thinking about. Don't be scared. Just try it out. Even if that fear is there, just grab onto that courage and give it a shot. See what happens. Let's talk a little bit more about fear being a signal. Fear shows us that it's a sign of growth. Fear indicates that you're pushing beyond your established comfort zone, which is necessary for acquiring new skills and achieving that personal growth. So it lets us know we are growing. If you're scared of something, that means you're trying new things, you're putting yourself in new situations. That's a good thing. It also shows us our limitations. It reveals areas where you feel a lack of confidence, control, or even self-doubt, pointing to the specific fears and beliefs you need to confront. This helps us because, yes, it's good to recognize our own limitations and where we can get to, but it's also good because it helps us recognize how to work on these things and what to strengthen, what to build up. If I have a lot of fear with public speaking, I could do something about that and work on that and make that easier for myself. That could be a sign of a limitation of I'm just never going to public speak. That's just my boundary. Or I could look at that as an opportunity for growth of this is where it is. This is where my limitation is right now. I want to grow it. I want to expand it. I want to be able to do this thing. It also can act as a warning for stagnation. Staying in your comfort zone too long, where fear is absent, can lead to a lack of learning, personal stagnation, and missed opportunities. You kind of plateau. And it's not to say the comfort zone's bad. We all need to be in the comfort zone at times. That's a good place to be. It's a nice place to relax and reset. But we have to get out of it from time to time too. And I'm not saying like once or twice a year. I mean, kind of almost weekly if we can. If we could do it daily, that'd be awesome. And I know that's not something we can all do, but maybe at least aiming for the weekly or a couple times a week. So try and push yourself to grow in some ways. Try and face fears. If something scares you, jump at it. Let's see what happens. You might find that it actually leads you down a path that creates some pretty awesome experiences and memories for you because you followed it and chased that fear down a little bit more. It also shows us the need for courage. Overcoming fear requires courage, but the reward is a new, larger comfort zone where challenges that once seemed scary become familiar and manageable. It kind of pushes us to grow, and then hard things now become easy. I've seen this in my own life with just getting into teaching. I remember public speaking was really scary for me, just standing up in class for a presentation, all these kind of things, like I'm sure a lot of you have felt, that it would be, pretty intense. I had the thought while I was getting my master's degree that I don't know how my teacher does this, standing up here for like almost 3 hours talking to our whole class. But now I teach 2 classes myself. I have a class of 30 students and I have a class of 40 students. And it honestly feels like nothing just standing up there and talking because I've done it so much at this point. It's a lot of just that exposure therapy of helping you work with that fear and go chase these things down. And when I did apply to become a teacher, I had that feeling of fear. I saw the job posting and the first thought that came up was that would be kind of cool, but that's kind of scary. And I pushed myself of, all right, let's just try it out. And I told myself, even if I did it for 1 semester and I hated it, I at least did it. I tried it out. And now I know it's not my thing. And I did it, and yeah, that first day was terrifying. I was sweating. It was not feeling good. I was nervous. But after I pushed through that, after I did it for a couple hours that first day, it just kind of went away, and it just feels like nothing now. It's just talking to a group of people. It's super easy, super chill. And it's nice because it's kind of expanded that piece of me where it feels like, public speaking in general is a pretty easy thing to do, and I could run classes and teach people things and help people understand some of these conversations and topics in different ways, more hands-on. And it's been pretty rewarding in a lot of ways for me too. So we got to face these fears because it's going to build things up for you. It's going to expand your comfort zone, and it's going to give you opportunities to enjoy things and have things in your life that maybe you didn't think were going to be there. Now let's talk a little bit about the foundations of fear, where it comes from and how it's created. There's a lot of evolutionary roots that are in fear. Humans are wired for fear. That's part of our fight, flight, freeze, fawn, faint kind of system, our fight or flight system. Humans are wired for fear because it is a fundamental survival mechanism that evolved to promote survival in dangerous ancestral situations and environments by triggering a rapid response to perceived threats. This was made to keep us safe. It's to keep us alive. So it's very strong. It's very powerful, which is why it's so easy to succumb to it sometimes. This fear response ensures individuals are more likely to avoid predators, escape danger, and learn from negative experiences, thereby increasing their chances of survival and the propagation of their genes. The brain's predisposition to be ready for danger, even if it sometimes results in exaggerated reactions, is seen as a valuable adaptive trait that has helped human populations endure for millennia. This is kind of the core of triggers, right? When we go through terrible things like traumas, our body learns what we went through and it looks out for it in the future to try and avoid it. And it's doing this to keep us safe. Our brain's main goal, it's wired for, is survival. It's just got to keep us alive. Life is a lot safer now than it used to be in the past as our ancestors were living, but a lot of these systems still work the same way, and it's looking out for danger, even perceived danger. And these exaggerated reactions where we're feeling fear and responding to fear in really big ways, even if there is nothing there to be fearful of, doesn't really lead to problems. It could hold us back for some opportunities. It could cause some issues in our modern life now, which is why we're talking about it. But in terms of actual physical survival, avoiding things a little extra or a little in an exaggerated way is actually helpful towards survival, and it is something that has more likelihood of kind of passing down. So we want to work with these things, but we also want to balance it out, and we got to understand that having no fear is actually a very dangerous place to be. We don't want to be there either. So we understand this system is there for a reason and it's good. We just got to work with it, not against it. Fear promotes survival through these systems, and it does that through rapid threat detection. The brain's threat perception systems are a core component of this survival intelligence, enabling quick recognition of potential dangers in the environment. Sometimes this is a snap judgment. The brain likes to categorize things sometimes. And it can get us to some points where we're making judgments or assumptions that aren't very accurate, that aren't helping us where we are in life. But it can help us stay safe and get through some really difficult, tricky situations in very successful, productive ways. So we want to use these things. We don't want to fear these things, but we also got to work with them. And the more comfortability you have in these systems, the easier it's going to be for you to use them. We have protective reactions as well. Fear triggers a biological response that's in that fight or flight system. It prepares that body to either confront, escape, or avoid danger, and it learns from the danger. Replaying dangerous events in the mind help in learning from them, a behavioral essential for survival in the Stone Age. And this is something big with visualization and self-talk as well. And we talked about that in that episode, that you can visualize things and it can actually cause your brain to work on things as if you're actually doing it. So you can learn from the danger of just replaying events in your mind. It also helps with social cohesion. Fear of judgment or rejection is also a survival purpose for encouraging conformity and integration into the kinship of the group, which is crucial for survival in early human societies, very different nowadays. Talking a little bit more about the brain, the neuroscience of fear, there involves the amygdala activation, which we talk about in that threat system episode, that very first episode. So if you're curious about that, make sure to jump into that. And we got some nervous system responses that come up as well. One of them is the sympathetic nervous system, which is related to that fight or flight response. This system is responsible for the rapid, high-intensity aspects of the fear response, and a lot of that gets pushed through adrenaline release. The hypothalamus activates the adrenal glands, which floods the bloodstream with adrenaline or epinephrine, and that tends to lead to all these body physiological changes that we've talked about, such as the increased heart rate, the blood pressure, faster breathing, tunnel vision, redirected blood flow to major muscles, increased strength and muscle tension, and more and more. We also have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest response. Once the threat has passed, the system works to calm the body and return it to normal by slowing our heart rate, lowering our blood pressure, decreasing cortisol levels, and kind of calming things back down. The HPA access and cortisol spikes, which creates a lot of problems. The nervous system also prompts to release cortisol. Cortisol sustains the body's high alert state during a prolonged fear response and performs several functions. One of which is it increases blood sugar to provide energy. This is why sometimes it's hard to lose weight if you've been stressed out for long periods of time, is the way your body is managing and digesting things actually changes. It temporarily enhances memory consolidation, particularly for events linked to fear, to make sure you remember certain things related to that fear so you don't go into that situation before. And yes, the brain can block some things out. We can have some memory issues where things are blacked out, but this is really just kind of encoding in that nervous system that we got to look out for this stuff. And this is why sometimes we have triggers we don't even realize are there. We may not be conscious of it, but it's still imprinted into our body. It also modulates amygdala function, with research suggesting a link between higher amygdala activity and a more robust cortisol response. And so with this in mind, we can try to microdose fear and help us get a little more comfortable with it. That's kind of that exposure therapy I talked about, of putting yourself in these situations and facing some of the fear. The idea of microdosing fear is a metaphor for intentionally seeking out small, manageable doses of discomfort to build psychological resilience. By voluntarily pushing beyond your comfort zone in a safe, controlled way, you train your mind and body to adapt to challenges, which expands your capacity to handle more significant stressors in the future. This concept is supported by the scientific principle of hormesis, where a low dose exposure to an otherwise harmful substance or stressor can stimulate an adaptive beneficial response. There are some key principles of microdosing fear we want to be aware of. It has to be controlled and mild exposure. The key is to face stressors that are slightly beyond your comfort level that you currently have, not to overwhelm yourself. We don't want to put ourselves in that panic zone. A good rule of thumb is to take on challenges that feel like a stretch, not like a panic-inducing leap. So we want to push ourselves and maybe give ourselves that feeling like I could kind of do this, I'm just not sure how it's going to go, but not to a point where it feels like it's just freaking you out and that this is a very intense thing. We don't want to push too far. We also want to have some gradual progression. As you grow more comfortable with small challenges, you can gradually increase the intensity. This step-by-step approach builds confidence and widens your capacity to endure more discomfort over time. So as you get comfortable facing little, small stressors, you want to slowly make them bigger and bigger and bigger. And the key in this is slow, gradual. If you go too fast, it'll overwhelm you, it'll be too much. So we got to take our time with it and give ourselves plenty of time to be in that fear and to help ourselves embrace it and face it. But we also got to give ourselves time to pull out of it, take a break, reset, kind of like doing a set in the gym. You can do some really great lifting, but if you're just lifting the whole time without any breaks in between, your body's not going to be able to do the same amount of stuff. We got to take the break, let the body reset, get back to it again. We also want to observe rather than be consumed. Intentionally confronting fear allows you to practice observing your fearful thoughts and physical reactions rather than letting them take control. As one expert puts it, it's the difference between a fear that you can observe and then there's a fear that overtakes you. So we don't want it to overcome us and just swallow us whole. We want to kind of just look at it and observe it as almost like a curious explorer. Like, what is this doing here? What is it trying to tell me? Because at the end of the day, all these emotions are just trying to communicate stuff to you. We just got to figure out, what is it trying to tell me? Let's try and listen to it. Let's try and hear it out. The fear pathway is also connected to memory. Fear not only triggers an immediate physical response like we talked about, but it also involves memory and learning, which can create a lasting impact on how the brain responds to future threats. It is also involved with learning and conditioning. The amygdala is central to fear conditioning. It's nicknamed the fear center of the brain. Where a neutral stimulus becomes associated with a negative event, this association leads to a conditioned fear response. So we can literally learn to fear things based on experiences and situations we go through. This kind of leans back on that idea that we're a compilation of all the things that we've gone through in our life. So you can learn fears. We can become fearful to things because of experiences we've had. I mean, think back to your childhood. Maybe there's a movie that you saw that was too scary for you, that you saw too young or too early in your life, and it led to a fear that maybe has stuck with you your whole life. Maybe it's of that movie, or maybe it's something about that movie. The prefrontal cortex is involved with this as well. We talked about that on that threat episode as well. The brain's center for reasoning, logic, problem solving, all of that, it helps regulate and inhibit the amygdala's fear response. But during an intense fear reaction, the amygdala can temporarily override that prefrontal cortex and shut it down, which tends to lead to impulsive, irrational actions where we start doing things or saying things where we beat ourselves up. Like, why did I do that? Why did I say that thing? There's also an impact of chronic fear if the fear is there over long periods of time. When the fear response is constantly activated due to chronic stress, it can lead to lasting changes in the brain and body. Prolonged cortisol spikes can damage blood vessels and can contribute to anxiety and depression in various ways. A good example of this is Warren Buffett, one of the richest men on the planet. One of the most successful investors, Buffett was once terrified of public speaking. In his early years, he would become physically ill before presentations and chose college classes to avoid speaking in class. So he had a lot of those physiological responses where his body literally felt sick because of the idea of getting up there and having that spotlight on him. And he allowed his behavior to avoid it by just avoiding situations or classes that might put him in a situation he might have to speak. And this is that system in full response right here. And this is with somebody very successful. And for him, for Warren Buffett, he decided he didn't want to be held back by this thing anymore. He used that as a signal and saw, this is a limitation. This is as far as I can go in this arena unless I do something to overcome it. So he decided he's going to overcome it. And what he did is he eventually enrolled in a public speaking course at the age of 21. And he decided he's going to conquer that fear and face it head on. And he did, which led to him becoming a prominent public speaker. Sometimes we think we just don't have the talent for these things, that we just don't have what it takes. And honestly, it's not the truth. We can grow and build up kind of anything if we put effort into it and we learn what we need to learn. The biggest thing that holds us back is fear. It's thinking we can't do it, or we're not sure how it's going to go, or maybe being worried of judgment or rejection. And we convince ourselves that we shouldn't put ourselves out there, we should hide instead. And I understand it. There's times I've done it myself. But in all honesty, if we can just face these fears, and if we can face them early in life, it's going to open up the world to you, and it's going to give you so many more options for success in your life, and you're going to love that you did it. So try and put yourself out there, try and face these fears. If there's something that scares you, try and conquer it. Embrace it and face it. Don't be scared of it. Don't run from it. You're going to grow. You're going to become a better, more well-rounded person if you can face that fear, and it's going to give you options and access to things you never thought you could do. The psychology of fear is big too. How perception versus reality drives anxiety. The psychology of fear and anxiety highlights the powerful influence of perception over reality. While a real present danger triggers a short-lived fear response, anxiety is the anticipation of a future threat, often from an overestimation of risk based on distorted perceptions. This disparity drives a cycle of heightened vigilance and worry even when no true danger exists. So that can lead to a hypersensitive threat detection. Anxiety causes the brain's threat detection system to become oversensitive. A non-anxious person might identify a stimuli as neutral, while an anxious person's brain automatically interprets it as a threat, triggering a fear response even when no danger is present. So this could happen in just, say, raising your hand in class. If you don't have that anxiety or it's pretty minimal, you could raise your hand in class and say something, no big deal. You might have a quick thought in the back of your mind of what did everyone think about that, but it doesn't get too stuck. It's not too big of a deal. On the other hand, you could raise your hand in class and start talking, and then all of a sudden this fear system starts to kick in, and you realize you're in a situation that's a little scarier than you thought. And I've literally seen this happen in my classes before, where people will raise their hand to start talking, and then as they're talking, they kind of start shutting down. You start seeing the fear response right there in person, where their body starts trying to turn things off and avoid it because they realize the danger they got into by putting themselves in that awareness of the whole class or having everyone looking at them. And then things start to shut down. That hypersensitive threat detection starts to take over. It can also overgeneralize. Past emotional experiences can cause a person with anxiety to overgeneralize and have fear of an anxious response to a new but irrelevant situation. This is a learned response, and it happens outside of the person's conscious control. We just get scared of things, and our brain kind of paints things in broad brushes or brushstrokes, where it's trying to show us that this stuff is scary too, we should look out for it. And really what it's doing is it's overgeneralizing because it's trying to play it safe. It's trying to catch anything that could be related to that fear. So sometimes we start fearing things that actually weren't connected to it. It can also lead to more cognitive distortions. Anxiety distorts reality by creating manipulative and biased thinking patterns. These can include catastrophizing, which is blowing a minor mistake at work into a catastrophic career failure, saying like, I blew that meeting, I'm going to get fired, they're never going to give me a meeting again, all those kind of things. You're just kind of really blowing it up. We could get into emotional reasoning, believing that since you feel like a failure, it must be true even without factual support, kind of just accepting the emotion is telling the truth and that this is just what it is, even if there's nothing backing it up. This is also why we love our check the facts skill, because it helps us reconnect with reality again and get back in a place where we're responding to what's actually happening instead of what we feel is happening. It can also lead to negative bias, focusing only on potential threats and ignoring any positive or neutral information, because we're just so stuck on looking out for threats and what could go wrong that we're ignoring anything that might be positive or might build us up. We're just focusing on what could go wrong. It can also lead to an altered perception of self. Anxiety can distort your perception of your own capabilities, making you feel less capable and more vulnerable than you really are. For example, studies have shown that anxious individuals underestimate their ability to physically reach for something. So it could be literally just a physical movement thing, but it could also be thinking about our capacity to handle something like doing a 10-page paper and just feeling like I just can't get that done. It's impossible for me. We see that fear all the time starts to convince ourselves not to try or to give up before we even start because it can be so convincing. There's also the fear of the unknown. Anxiety is often fueled by the dread of an ambiguous future threat. The human ability to imagine future disasters rather than responding to a tangible threat can create chronic, debilitating anxiety. And there's a lot of people out there that struggle with anxiety connected to just what ifs and how life can go bad. And yeah, there's a lot of ways things can go wrong. There is. I mean, we live in a dangerous world. Things can go wrong every day in all sorts of different ways. But at the same time, if we really think about it and reflect on it, we go through days all of the time and we're totally safe and totally fine. I mean, think of how many days you've gone through where nothing went bad and you're safe. We're just looking out for these things because we're trying to stay safe. And when we have unknown, when we have uncertainty, we tend to fill in the blank with our own insecurities or our biggest fears because we're looking out for them. We're trying to stay away from them. A great example of this is Jeff Bezos. While he was working a secure, high-paying job on Wall Street in the early 1990s, Jeff Bezos decided to leave and start an online bookstore out of his garage. He was more concerned with the regret of not trying than the fear of failure. So he had this uncertainty where he has this really secure, high-paying job. He could just stick with it and just keep doing what he's doing. But he decided, I want to do this thing. And his thing that really pushed him was fear, if you think about it. But it was fear of regret, not fear of failure. It was the fear of what if I don't give this a shot and I find myself kicking myself years later because I always wished I did. And this is an important lesson to think about in life, that if there's things you want to do, don't wait on it. Go live your life. Go do these things now. I know there's a lot of time in life, but at the same time, life goes by so fast. Don't wait for things to fly by and to be in a spot where it feels like you're out of time. If you have something you want to do, this is my call to you to push towards it. You might be surprised at how it works out for you. In Amazon's early days, Bezos consistently reinvested all of his profits back into the company to fuel growth, which was a highly risky strategy at the time. Small businesses close and go bankrupt all of the time. It happens constantly. So to put all of your profits into the company, you're kind of betting everything on you, which is a huge move. And it really paid off for them in the long run. But he bet that focusing on long-term dominance rather than short-term gains would pay off, and he trusted in the vision he saw. And it led to Amazon becoming an e-commerce giant and a leader in cloud computing that everyone knows today. I mean, who doesn't use Amazon, right? So that came from taking a leap of faith of I have this idea and I'm going to try it out. And yeah, I'm secure, I'm safe, I have everything I need exactly where I am. But I'm going to leave this comfort zone. I'm going to dive into this growth zone and I'm going to push myself and see where it goes. And it went to some pretty cool places. So take that with you and push towards what you want to try. If you have a dream, if you have an idea, let's try it. Don't just keep waiting. You're never going to feel perfectly ready for it. I promise. I had that happen myself for a while with all these things I'm doing where I kept telling myself, let me just learn more. Let me get more competent at what I'm doing. And eventually I'll put this stuff out there. And in all honesty, one day I just ripped off the Band-Aid and said, let's just do it. Let's just start. Let's see what happens. I'm going to learn along the way. And there's going to be a lot of things that aren't that great that I can improve on, but I'm not going to know what those things are until I actually let the rubber hit the road and I try these things out. And that's also why I ask for feedback from you guys. If you see things that I can work on, let me know, because we can help each other grow and give feedback to each other to build things up. So try and put yourself out there and let's see what happens. We also want to work to break the cycle. Aligning our own perception with reality can help a lot, and there's a lot of different ways we can do it. You can do it with treatments like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. They're helpful for reframing things in different ways, helps us to identify triggers, to challenge negative thoughts, and to face those fears incrementally, kind of microdosing that fear like we talked about. Not to mention, a bunch of mindfulness and grounding exercises can be very helpful to bring us back in that present moment rather than getting lost in future-oriented, anxious thoughts. So let's talk a little bit about the difference of fear, anxiety, and worry. Fear is a reaction to a real and immediate threat, while anxiety is a response to a potential or uncertain future threat, often involving a pervasive sense of unease. Worry is a cognitive component of anxiety, representing the repetitive, often irrational thoughts and concerns that accompany the feeling of anxiety about future events. In essence, fear is about the now, anxiety is about the future, and worry is the mental chatter associated with the future anxiety. There are a lot of different types of fear as well. We have specific phobias, like agoraphobia or claustrophobia or arachnophobia. Agoraphobia would be a fear of open spaces or crowds. Claustrophobia would be a fear of enclosed spaces. Arachnophobia would be a fear of spiders. So we got specific phobias that we can have. We're fearing specific things. We also can have social phobias, like glossophobia, which is a fear of public speaking. We can have social anxiety. We can have situational phobias, like astrophobia, which is a fear of thunder and lightning, or dentophobia, a fear of dentists. We also have other fears. Another common one is a fear of death, a fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of separation, fear of poverty. These are things that pop up all the time, and sometimes we try and shove them down and suppress them, but they're constantly there. We can have primal fears. These are things connected to our survival, like fear of loud noises or heights or darkness or separation. We could have learned fears, things that we've learned through going through things, like fears of driving after going through a car accident, fear of dogs after being bitten, all of those kind of things. And it's important to note that these categories are not mutually exclusive and that individuals may experience multiple types of fears. There's a lot of different things we can fear. It does not have to be just one thing. Additionally, some fears may be considered normal or adaptive, while others can become debilitating and interfere with daily life. If a fear is causing significant distress or impairment, it is recommended to seek professional help. So again, fear is not bad. It's not something that we can't live with. But if it's getting to a point where it's like collapsing our life and destroying things, we got to get help with it. That means it's too much. There's too much going on here. If it's too out of balance, it causes problems, and that's just like anything. So we got to take care of things, and if you're having issues and you need help, go get the help. It's okay. Let's talk a little bit about reframing fear, like we talked about. That's a CBT technique. Reframing fear involves changing your interpretation of frightening thoughts or situations to a more positive or helpful perspective. And it's really helpful because it includes a lot of different things we talked about before. It focuses on the present, on using positive self-talk, identifying your strengths, coping skills, and more and more. So we're going to go through some steps so you guys can do it yourself to give it a shot. Because again, I like to always give you guys tools best I can so you can try things. And what we want to do is first notice the negative thought. Become aware of the fearful or negative thought without judging yourself for having it. So we just want to notice it. Then from there, we want to challenge or question the thought. Ask yourself if the thought is based on reality or if there's evidence to support it and if it's truly helpful. You want to kind of stress test it. Like, what is this actually doing for me? Is this here and it needs to be here, or is it not really based in reality at all? Then we want to replace it with a more balanced thought. Consciously choose a more positive, realistic, and balanced perspective to replace the discouraging thought. For example, instead of, I'm never going to handle this, try, I can handle this one step at a time. So we just want to reframe that thought to something more realistic, more balanced, a little more positive. After that, we want to focus on the present moment. Shift your attention away from dwelling on negative thoughts to what is happening right now. This can reduce anxiety in the moment. This is why we've talked a lot about grounding exercises or mindfulness techniques in general, because it does really help reduce anxiety and calm us down. After we do that, after we refocus on that present moment, we want to practice gratitude and positive self-talk. Focus on the positive aspects of your life and use supportive messages to counteract that negativity. Kind of build yourself up, almost hype yourself up. Tell yourself of all the positives that you got going on too, not letting yourself just get stuck on the negatives. We can also use mindfulness and meditation after that. These practices help you detach from your thoughts and emotions, allowing you to observe them as an outsider and gain a clearer perspective. Mindfulness and meditation is a very helpful practice to do with just increasing focus. It's also good at reducing distress and kind of calming the body down. After that, we want to embrace growth and change. Understand that fear can be a natural part of growth and change. Instead of hindering you, view it as a challenge or an opportunity to develop. And then identify strengths. Remind yourself of past experiences where you have successfully overcame difficulties to build confidence in your ability to manage current situations or challenges. Show yourself you've done it before and hype yourself up and tell yourself you got what you need to deal with these things. Sometimes we just have issues trusting ourselves. This reframing is helpful because it shifts your mindset. It transforms negative thinking patterns into more constructive ones, leading to a better feeling and outlook. And the more you do it, the more your brain learns to do it on its own, so you don't have to consciously do it all the time. It also promotes personal growth. By reframing fear as a challenge or opportunity, you foster personal development and increase your adaptability, which is going to help with your resilience long term. This also reduces anxiety and depression. Replacing negative thoughts with helpful ones can significantly lessen symptoms associated with conditions like anxiety and depression. We want to use fear as fuel. Use it to sharpen your focus and drive performance. Fear can fuel your drive to succeed because it makes you aware of what's at stake. It can make you more determined, focused, and ready to tackle the obstacles ahead. Take a deep breath, accept that the fear is present, and then take action. Remember, action is the antidote to fear. Stillness is death. Just get moving. Sometimes that's all we can do, and before you know it, you start feeling that courage come with you. Sometimes we just got to get moving, even when we're scared. Now let's talk about another thing that you can use, which is called the Navy SEAL 20 times rule. The Navy SEAL 20 times rule is a motivational principle that states individuals are capable of at least 20 times more than they think they are. It is a mental training technique used to push past perceived limitations and access a deeper reserve of strength and potential. The concept is popularized by former Navy SEAL Commander Mark Devine, the founder of SEALFIT and the Unbeatable Mind Academy. You're capable of 20 times more than you think. I want you guys to reflect on what that actually means, that you can do 20 times more than what you think you can do. There is so much potential in us that we nerf or kind of pull back from by our own mindset all of the time. That's partly what's got me so passionate about this field, is I want to get into performance and helping people with this because I've seen the limitations we place on ourselves, and I've seen ourselves fall short of reaching our potential because of it. I remember I had some pretty big insights into this when I was on the football team in college. Some of the workouts and strength training that we would do would be really intense. They'd kind of like kill our bodies. It was with the intense strength training and conditioning we were doing on the football team, there was a period of time where I'd had plenty of thoughts of like, I can't do another rep. Like, I just can't. But at the same time, I'd have that like social cohesion piece of like, I can't quit either. I can't just like tap out. Everyone else is doing it. I got to keep doing it too. And I'd push myself, and sure enough, I'd do another rep. And after I did it enough times, I kind of had that thought in my mind of like, I can just do these things if I just push my mind to just do it. And if you put yourself in that situation and push towards that change, you'll find that your body can meet you there, and it's going to give you a lot of things you didn't think you had. So try and push yourself and remind yourself you have more than you think. And I promise you, there's a pretty good chance you are not redlining yourself so hard that your body's going to shut down and it's going to just fail where you need like an ambulance. It can happen. Don't push yourself too far. Make sure you get the nutrition and all the things you need. But, you know, in reality, if you are pushing yourself, there's a chance that you can just do it. So let's not get worried. Let's not get stuck in the fear. Let's just push ourselves towards things and show ourselves what we're capable of. Fear is also connected to our personal values. The things we fear losing or not achieving are often a window into our core values and what's important to us. Fear of loss reflects what we value. Fear is a powerful indicator of what we hold dear. It can help us understand what's important in our life. A fear of losing your job signals that financial security and stability are high priorities, and it might have to do with, you know, maybe your role in the family or in what you're doing in your life, in your situation, where it's like, I have to take care of these things. In relationships, a fear of being alone or disappointing others points to the value of love, belonging, and connection being important to you, that you really want to belong somewhere, that you want to have connections. The fear of reputation, the fear of public speaking reveals a desire to be respected and to avoid social judgment, and that's how it connects back to reputation. So fear highlights things for us. It helps us realize our values. It helps us realize where our levels are, where we need to push ourselves a little bit more, where our comfort zone is. It also helps us realize where danger is. It helps us survive. A fear of failure also highlights aspirations. What you are afraid of failing at points to what you most hope to succeed at. The fear of not living up to your potential or obligations reveals a high personal standard for achievement. A fear of change signals what provides security. The fear of change can signal that you place a high value on stability, predictability, and status quo. This can motivate you to protect what you have, but it can also prevent you from seeking growth opportunities and getting stuck in that comfort zone. It can also help us figure out our priorities. Fear can force us to reevaluate and clarify our priorities, sometimes in extreme or unexpected ways. So these things can help us reprioritize things in our life and set ourselves up for success and what we might need with things. So really, fear just gives us a bunch of information. And the biggest issue with it is just that we don't like feeling it. It's not bad to be scared. It's not bad to feel fear. It's bad when we don't do anything about it or we avoid it and lose these messages, because all it's doing is it's helping you realize things that are important to you. And this is why I talk about emotions the way I do. And you can go back to that emotion episode if you want to get deeper into that. But the reason I do that is because so often do we look at certain emotions as good or bad, and we try and avoid certain ones, when in reality they're all just messengers trying to let us know what's going on and trying to communicate things to us that are going to help us move forward in life. And if we can completely connect with all of these emotions in our life, hear what our body's telling us, you're going to find success with what you're doing a whole lot more often than you think. So we're going to jump into another exercise you guys can use. This one's by Tim Ferriss. If anyone's heard of him, he's a pretty big guy. He's done a lot of big things. So check out his work if you do like any of his things or haven't heard of him. He has a pretty cool book out there called The 4-Hour Workweek, which has gone pretty big for him. But this is a fear-setting exercise that he's put out that helps us outline worst-case scenarios and defang them to just help us deal with them. So what this is a 3-page fear-setting exercise. So you want 3 pages of paper. So it could be a notebook, it could be just 3 blank pages of paper, whatever you want. On page 1, you want to define your nightmare. On the first page, address the what-if question that's causing your anxiety by breaking down your fears into 3 columns. First one is define the worst-case scenario. So list 10 to 20 of the absolute worst things that could happen if action is taken. Be as specific and detailed as possible. An example would be, I quit my job and then I run out of money. Then you want to do damage control. For each item in the define column, list specific actions to prevent or minimize its likelihood. An example would be start part-time freelance job or build up a 6-month emergency fund. That way, if I do quit my job and run out of money, I do have ways to either make money or a fund that I can lean back on and take care of things for a couple months until I figure things out. We then want to make a repair or recovery plan. So for each scenario, brainstorm what to do to repair the damage or get back on track, even if only partially. So with this situation we've been talking about, the example would be to move into a cheaper apartment or live with family until you get a new job. So again, we can deal with the money situation of not running out of money by changing our situation, helping create a situation that I can build myself back up to get to that end goal of getting a job or getting things taken care of. On page 2, you want to explore the benefit of success. So on the second page, list the potential upsides of taking action. This includes the benefits of a full success as well as a partial success. Consider internal benefits, like how would growth occur? Would new skills, confidence, or self-esteem be gained? Consider external benefits. What could be learned? Who might be met? What opportunities might be created? So in this one, for the same example we could be talking about, that quit the job, it could be to go start a business. So thinking about what you could learn by starting a business, what new skills or confidence or self-esteem could you gain? Who could you meet? What opportunities might that create for you? Maybe you meet other job opportunities that you could jump into if your own business didn't take off in the way you thought it could. Maybe you learn different ways to run a business. Maybe you figure out different issues that you didn't realize were issues until you did take that leap. So exploring the benefits of it, how it could go well. And then on page 3, that third page, you want to calculate the cost of inaction. The final page is designed to counter the myth that standing still is a safe option. Sometimes we convince ourselves doing nothing is better than doing something, and that's not true. Visualize what life would look like in a different time frame if the decision is avoided entirely. Create columns for different time frames. Examples include 6 months, 1 year, and 3 years. List the cost of maintaining the status quo. Detail the emotional, financial, and physical toll of not pursuing the path you're afraid to take. For example, what regret or missed opportunity will exist. So you really want to see how you're feeling in these different time zones, in these time frames. So maybe in 6 months, it's like, all right, I'm still got time, I can do it. But if you're talking like 5 years, you might look at it like, wow, man, I really just let that thing go. So let's explore these things. Let's see what would happen if you don't go after it. Because we love to tell ourselves that standing still is good and that it's safe because it's in that comfort zone. But if we actually show ourselves what we're missing by not taking action, by inaction, it might motivate you to move a whole lot more. Fear setting works because completing the exercise provides perspective and clarity that defangs the anxiety and helps it feel a little less intense. It helps us rationalize the fear because many fears are very vague and ill defined, so it helps them make them concrete, and writing them down makes them a little more manageable as well once we actually see them. And I do this all the time in my sessions. I'll just write down on the board, the whiteboard, at what people are fearing or what they're scared of happening, and in all honesty, they just look at it and they're like, that's it? Like, that's what I'm afraid of? Like, once it's concrete like that, it just takes away a lot of the fear that's attached to it. It also reveals unlikely scenarios. Once on paper, the worst case scenarios are often highly improbable or have a plan to recover, so we're just not as scared as them as much. We're kind of almost reality testing there in the moment that this just isn't going to happen, most likely. And it exposes the risk of standing still. The exercise highlights the inaction also has a cost, and that staying where you are might be the biggest risk of all. So it pushes us forward, it helps us get things done, and it helps us make action a thing. And stillness is death. We got to keep moving. We got to keep growing, no matter where you are in your path. And I know it can sound exhausting, but you're always going to be working on something. Let's just keep growing. Let's keep going. Another benefit is it provides a clear path forward with a preventative and a repair plan in place. Taking the first step becomes less intimidating and more intentional. So we already feel like if stuff does go wrong, I have everything I need to deal with it. I'm ready to go. And it makes things just feel less intense. It makes it a little easier to start going and to take some steps towards that direction and start building up some momentum to keep on building some courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but instead it's action in spite of it. So we want to do things even when we're scared. We don't want to wait for the fear to just disappear. We want to go after what we want and make it happen for ourselves. So let's talk a little bit about how to not get frozen in the face of fear, because I know there's a lot of you out there that struggle with these things happening, where when fear happens, you freeze and it maybe stresses you out or pisses you off or creates issues for you. Freezing in the face of fear is an involuntary instinctual response from your nervous system. So first thing is, instead of blaming yourself for this reaction, we want to accept that you can train your mind and body to move past it by using grounding techniques, planned responses, and mindfulness. Do not beat yourself up for your body doing what it's built to do. A lot of times we do that, and putting shame on top of it all is just going to make it more hard. The freeze response happens because when you perceive a threat, your body automatically activates that fight or flight response. And freezing is often triggered when either fighting or fleeing seems possible, and it serves as a way to avoid detection. So we just get stuck. So this is a system that's been built for a long, long time, and it's been there working for a long, long time. So don't be afraid of it. We just got to use it in ways that's going to help us. We have the physiological effects that come in, and the pause button is your body determining that we need to pause, kind of get stuck in immobility, maybe a blank stare, maybe even a sense of disconnection, but your body still remains in that hyper alert stage. It's just kind of deciding that pausing is the best thing we can do right now. Afterward, that shame, blame, all of these things tends to make it feel worse, but we got to keep in mind that fear response is not a conscious choice. It's just our body getting completely overwhelmed. So we got to do some things to get away from that. So some strategies you can use for that moment is, when freezing, acknowledge and name the fear. You want to name it to tame it. If you can name it, it's going to take away some of that fear right off the bat. Instead of pushing your feelings of anxiety aside, recognize and validate them as a normal human response. Acknowledging your fears can immediately reduce their power over you and allows you to move towards a solution. Sometimes we try and suppress and avoid these things because we think that's going to help, but in reality, actually embracing and accepting these things is what helps us. And that helps us shift focus from panic thoughts to physical sensations and surroundings. Once we can start focusing where we're at and what's going on, getting back connected with our body again, it's going to help us get back to movement again. We could regulate breathing. That could calm the nervous system with slow rhythmic breathing. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 6. You can do that for at least 5 minutes. You can do a whole bunch of other breathing techniques. There's a lot of them out there. You could use grounding techniques, bringing awareness back to the present moment by engaging in the five senses, 5 things you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can smell, and on and on. You take small movements. You can break paralysis with a small intentional movement, such as shifting weight, maybe taking one step, maybe making eye contact, just doing what we can do, not trying to go too far, just getting our body more connected again and moving again. We can use verbal self-affirmations. We can process the current situation by saying, I am safe. If thoughts race, name the feeling and acknowledge that it doesn't define the person. For example, I feel fearful, but it doesn't define me. We can build long-term resilience. Reduce the likelihood of freezing by strengthening the mind-body connection and preparing for stressful situations. And this is kind of the backbone of the Premier Mindset. We're putting out all this information to help you guys handle situations by being more prepared and having that strengthened mind and body connection so that whatever does happen, you're in control and your body's not getting stuck in these automatic responses where you're getting kind of pulled around by your body instead of being in control of your body. You can also face that fear in small doses like we talked about. Kind of gradually expose yourself to the fear and make it a little easier for you to get used to it. We could build a plan. Write down a specific small action to address that fear. If fearing public speaking, the plan might include rehearsing in front of a mirror, maybe then a trusted friend or then a small group, kind of building up to it. You can practice visualization. We talked a lot about that in a past episode about self-talk and visualization. Use the imagination to place yourself in a stressful situation and practice responding differently than freezing. We saw that with Michael Phelps, with the idea of him getting stuck with his goggles filling up with water. So let's get that connection going and get the mind practicing on these things even before they happen. And create a healthy lifestyle. Improved overall well-being and can help manage stress through regular exercise and a balanced diet and healthy sleep habits. Exercise in particular can release endorphins that boost our mood. And on top of it, if you're really struggling with these things, you're having issues, go get help from a professional. It's not bad. It's a good thing. That's what we want to do. There are therapies out there like CBT, we talked a little bit about it, and EMDR that are often very effective for these things. But again, you're not going to be able to get a full benefit from using any of these things through a podcast. You're going to get it by sitting in front of someone and using the tool together. So seek professional help, whether that's with me or someone else. Get what you need. Don't get stuck just listening to things and getting information. Information is great, but if we don't use it, it doesn't really matter. So we have those practical strategies like CBT and DBT strategies for challenging fear-based thinking. You can look into the distress module, distress tolerance module, or even the motion regulation module of DBT. Those could be helpful. We've talked about those in past episodes. There's a lot of tools in there. We could use exposure therapy, kind of gradually leaning into that fear, getting more comfortable with it. We could use visualization. We can use breath work, mindfulness, grounding techniques. There's a lot of things you can do. We also want to try and reframe these things best we can and just show ourselves that really you're alive, you're living life, you're pushing yourself, you're growing, you're learning, you're putting yourself in new places. And reframe those nerves before performance is excitement. It doesn't have to be just fear. Look at it as you're excited, you just care and you just don't want it to go bad. If we can reframe how we're looking at these things, it might go a whole lot better for us in the long run. And thinking about long-term growth, there's a couple things we can do. You can journal fear triggers and outcomes to build resilience. So slowly kind of track your progress of facing fears and how it's going and which ones are a little harder to face than other ones, which ones you've conquered, which ones you want to do some more work on. That just helps us keep growing with these things, not just being stuck in the moment. We can also teach kids and teams how to face fear productively. That's something I'm doing. That's part of my mission with Premier Performance is I'm doing workshops and talks at different organizations and on different teams to help people build up and face that fear and to work with it, not against it, not have it tear them down. We could build a personal philosophy. What role will fear play in your life? Is it going to be the villain that you're running from your whole life? Is it going to be the teammate that's going to help you accomplish some amazing things? What is it going to do for you? How is it going to play that role? Fear is going to be there. How do you want it impacting your life? Do you want it helping you? Do you want it helping you grow? Or do you want it tearing you down? Do you want it burning things up? The paradox here is that the bigger the dream, the bigger the fear. If it was easy, everyone would do it. If we're going after something meaningful, it's going to be scary and it's going to be hard. But that's why we do it. Because if it was easy, everyone would do it. So we have to push towards these things. We have to remind ourselves that pursuing greatness is not an easy thing to do. And there's a lot of people that don't want to do it. And that's fine. But if this is what you want, if you want to pursue greatness, you have to push yourself to face fear and work with it and not be scared of it. So let's be aware that fear is going to be there, and let's accept it now, and let's just get to work. I got a couple questions I want you guys to think about, and I want you guys to send me answers, whether that's direct messaging me on social media, reaching out in any of these other various ways that you can reach out to me. But I want you guys to let me know what you think about these questions. First one, what would you do if you weren't afraid? What thing are you waiting to jump on? What thing are you waiting to take advantage of that's been held back by fear? What would that be? What would you do if you weren't afraid anymore? If we could just take that away. Think about it. Let me know. Another thing, which fear is holding you back the most right now? Let me know what that is. If you tell me what fear is holding you back the most right now, I can let you know things you can do right now in the moment to work on it. And I will. I'll tell you guys. So direct message me on social media, any of the social media sites, or email me, or reach out to me on my phone number, and I will give you something you can do to face that fear that's holding you back the most right now. I will give you actionable steps, but you got to reach out and tell me. I can't give you actionable steps if you don't tell me what it is. So that's my challenge to you guys. And then the last question, what's scarier, failing or never trying? Regret is one of the most corrosive things we can deal with, because once you have regret, chances are you can't really get rid of it. It just haunts you. So what's actually worse? Failing and sitting with that failure and learning from it, or never trying and looking back with I wish? Keep that in mind. Consider that question when you're thinking about what fear is holding you back the most right now, and let me know. Reach out to me and tell me, and I'm going to give you guys actionable steps to start working on it right now. Resilient minds, premier results. That's what we're doing here at Premier Mindset. We're trying to build up that mindset best we can so that you guys can go be successful and go live a life you want to live and have the success you've always envisioned in your life. Recognition is the first step. If we don't know something's happening, we can't do anything about it. If you don't realize the role that fear is playing in your life, we got to see it, and we got to see what it's doing so we can get to work on it. If this was helpful for you in any way, make sure to share this episode with people. Send it out to large groups of people if you can. Send it out to people that you specifically think could get a lot from it. If you see someone really struggling with fear in general, send this their way and see if it helps them. You'd be surprised at how far these things can go for people if you just send a little something their way. I make it a point to give you actionable tools to find success in your life, so let me know if it's helping. I love staying connected with you guys. I want you guys to reach out, answer those questions for me. I also want you guys to let me know how things are going. Just keep me in the loop. And if you're struggling with things, don't be afraid to let me know. I want to hear. And if you want me to cover certain topics or discuss more things in depth, let me know, and I can absolutely do those things too. I love kind of fitting these things back to what you guys are looking for. If you want to reach out in any way, you can email me at tmailer@premierperformancereno.com. My last name is spelled Mahler. You could text or call me directly at 775-561-0056. We have the Instagram and the TikTok with the same name, Premier_Performance_Reno for both of those. And then we also have the Facebook page and the LinkedIn page with the same name, Premier Performance LLC for both of those as well. And then the Twitter or the X name, which is @PremierReno LLC, and our website, www.premierperformancereno.com. So check us out, get into that community, subscribe, follow us, everything you might need to do, and feel free to reach out through any of those accounts in any of those ways. I'd love to hear from you guys, and if you're not hearing anything back from me, just send another message. It's not because I don't want to talk to you guys, I just may have not seen it, so don't be afraid to blow me up. If you do want to ask me something, I do want to help out best I can. If you need anything, just reach out. I want to be a resource for you guys. We are going to have new episodes come out every Sunday, and we're going to keep on building on this. Next week, we're going to talk about mental resilience, what that looks like, how to build that up, some strategies you can use, because we're slowly building up that mindset to go be successful best we can with whatever we are doing. So go be the best you can. Go live that life. Go have some fun. Push yourself. Face some fear. See what you can do. And I will see you guys soon. Have a great week.